poll. So, like, let's bake a cake, and had like numerous ingredients in it, and like almost 50% voted for vanilla extract. It was like half vanilla extract by volume.
Bro, that kills you if you eat it.
The first step in making fruit flavored
University.
Okay.
Look, Gert.
What's up, Jerry?
Homosexual dairy be like gay girl. Am I right, guys?
So real. You're cooking with that one.
I don't get it.
Yo,
I'm
yo,
gonna
Belly.
see. I need to find.
I'm
Stupid.
Bella. I'm sorry, Bella.
Yeah, what's up?
Yeah, truth or dare?
What?
Yeah, would you truth or dare?
Oh, neither. We're about to start Sleepy University.
No, you're supposed.
Okay, it is on the hour. Dove, feel free
You
to
get-
start whenever you want. You can wait a little bit, or you can start.
Bella,
whenever.
can you kick
But-
Blissenbot?
Yeah. Get Blissambot the fuck out of here.
Fuck you, Blissambot.
Fuck Blissambot.
No!
Fuck Tamagotchis.
That's very rude to the descendants of Abraham Bliscombe.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry about that. Alright, I'm about to get started. If you want to follow along, I sent the link like a while back, but I will send it again. VC VRAC, load download. It's free. Highly recommend load download if you want to follow along. I probably should have said that before the lecture because it will take some time to download because it's like a gig or 2 gigs. I can't remember. But yeah. So it's also going to be recorded, so if you want to like go back through after and like check out what's going on, then yeah. But I guess like how should I start this? How should I start this off? Can you hear, by the way? Can you hear like
Yes.
what's coming out of my computer?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. Alright, yeah, so this is VCVRAC. It's an emulation of modular synthesizers. So that's why it looks like this. The idea behind modular synthesis is it takes the... Sorry, really fucking loud siren in the background. It takes all the functions of a synthesizer and divides them among these modules. And you essentially create your sounds by... Oh my fucking god, the siren is so loud. Sorry, I'm very distracted by my background. Yeah, you basically make a sound by like connecting these cables in certain ways. And yeah, so what is it? The first thing to know in VCVRAC is... Wait, I actually just lost my train of thought. Okay, sorry. Basically... Oh, what I was going to say is if you have any questions at any point, please like say something in the Sleepy Zone text channel because I get that this can be kind of confusing. It's definitely like a different way of thinking about like synthesis. So, you know, if at any point you have a question, please just let me know. So yeah, first thing I'm going to go over is like basic controls in VCVRAC. When you open a project, it opens on this like basic tutorial patch, and that sounds like this. I'm not really going to be using this, so I'm going to depatch everything by clicking on all these points that have patch cables with shift click, and in that way, it's going to depatch everything. Yeah. But we're going to keep with the tutorial patch for now. The way to patch things together is you click and drag from one patch point into another. Generally, the patch points that have like a black box around the outside are an output, and the patches that have no black box or just like the white kind of background, that is an input. But you can also see like if you click and drag from a patch point, all the ones that you cannot drag to, either because it's like another input or some other reason, is they're all grayed out like this. So that definitely helps. You just can't drag it. But yeah, the another control that's pretty useful is if you want to drag the same output to two or more to two or more inputs, you control and click and drag from the same output, and then you can connect it to as many inputs as you want. And in case you're wondering, the color of the patch cables in VCVRAC means literally nothing. It has no impact on the sound. It's purely aesthetic. So yeah, and then the other thing that you want to do as soon as you start up your patch is on this audio device in the top right, you want to set it to be the you want to set the audio device, because it'll, when you first start up a patch, it'll say no device. So you want to make sure that you have a device set. That is very helpful. Yeah, and then also you can right click in the empty space to open your module browser. I have a lot of extra ones just because I wanted to download them. If you want to download more modules, you can go to Browse VCV Library, and then you'll have to make an account, which is kind of annoying, but it is what it is. And then you can add stuff to your library, and then it'll appear here after you restart your VCV rack. But that's not really that relevant for right now. Right now, if you right click in the space, that's all you need to know. You bring up the browser for the modules, and then you can search by name. You can search by what it does. So like, you know, oscillator, reverb, mixer, etc., etc., etc. And then once you click it, so I just clicked the delay and it shows up here. Then you can also drag it around like this by clicking and dragging. You can delete it by hitting the backspace after right clicking, or actually not after right clicking. I think, yeah, you just click on it and hit delete. Two more really important controls, and then we'll get to patching. On any device, on any module, if you right click and then you go to info and user manual, it'll open the user manual for that device. So I only have 45 minutes. I can't really go into like every single function of every single device, obviously. So if you want to like learn more about what anything does, or if you ever get confused, this user manual is where to go. And then the other thing is you can right click on any of these knobs that have like a changeable parameter, and you can input a fine value, which is really useful because like on this VCO, which stands for voltage controlled oscillator, these are your like main sound sources VCOs. If you right click on the frequency, you can put in like a manual like tuning. So if I wanted this to be like a perfect like A4, just put in 440, and then you can also do it by literally typing in the name of the note, which is really, really, really handy. So like if I wanted it to be like an octave above or like a C5, you can just type in C5 and boom, it does the frequency perfectly. And that's really useful for like FM when you want both of your operators to be, or not both of your operators, both of your oscillators to have frequencies that are ratios of one another. And you can do that for any knob. You can type in, like this one is from 0 to 100%, or sorry, negative 100 to 100%. But anyway, sorry, I'm kind of getting a little tangential. Wait, one sec. Oh, that has nothing to do with the lecture, but real tzatziki is good. But yeah, please like feel free to ask questions at literally any point, because I kind of get worried that I kind of just like worry that I'm gonna kind of go a bit like too fast, and I would rather people learn from what's going on than me just like scream into the void, you know? Anyway, so yeah, let's make some audio. Let me stop talking. Let's make some audio. Except I'll keep talking while we make audio. So basically like I said, on a very basic level, modular synthesis is just piecing together the functions of like a completed synthesizer, essentially. So like imagine you have like Serum, and in Serum you have like, you know, your oscillator, and then it gets contoured by a ADSR, and then it goes out and makes sound whenever you tap a note. In modular, we have to do that manually, and you start with one of these things, a VCO, which stands for voltage controlled oscillator. It's just an oscillator, but it's called a voltage controlled oscillator because in like the analog world, I guess that has more meaning. Everything here is digital, but yeah. So we're gonna drag the output of the sawtooth from the VCO. All these four at the bottom, these four outputs are outputs of the synthesizer voices. So yeah, and we're gonna drag that to the input of the oscilloscope and hit this trig button. And what this does is basically let us see a single cycle hitting this trig button. If you don't hit it, it'll just kind of oscillate endlessly. And then we're gonna take the output of that to the left/mono input of this audio device. And now you see we get a sawtooth. But I'm not going to keep it there because it's just going to drone endlessly, and a sawtooth droning endlessly is kind of annoying. So if you just patch an oscillator to an output, it's not going to, or it's just going to make sound endlessly, and you probably want to be able to play it. So what you do to make sure that doesn't happen is you send it to a VCA first. And what a VCA is a voltage controlled amplifier. And basically that is how we set the level of our sound, and that is how we gate it with an ADSR. So what we're going to do is put it in here, and then put it back into the oscilloscope, and put the oscilloscope back into the output. So it's still making that sound like consistently. The way to stop it from making like constant the way to stop it from making like constant droning is to put one of these ADSR devices into the CV, which stands for control voltage, which again, in this case is a meaningless term because it's not really voltage. It's just kind of, CV in this case is like a generic kind of term for essentially like modulation amount. Like imagine that anytime you're sending something to CV, that it's like a modulation type. It's like sending an envelope to modulate like, you know, X, Y, or Z in Serum. You know, kind of picturing it like that is kind of helpful. So yeah, we're gonna put this ADSR. We're gonna take the envelope output, which is basically what this is doing is sending out like a voltage, or it's sending out like a level of like voltage when it receives a gate signal, and that level is affecting the level is essentially controlling the level of the sound that comes out of here. So at its base, it's at 0, and then when it goes up here, and then it goes up to 1, and then 1 being a relative term in this case. But basically, it just gives it an ADSR. And so now if we patch this output back into the oscilloscope and then back into the output, boom, it's not making any sound anymore, which is nice. That's exactly what we wanted. And so now to get it to make sound, sorry. Something to note about these VCAs is like, basically, it's gonna drone endlessly. It's gonna drone endlessly until you patch something into this CV input. And when you patch something into the CV input, it breaks the sort of like normal connection to the output, and it ends up relying on the voltage from the ADSR, or if it could be a LFO, or it could be anything, to actually produce sound. So now when you push this button, this button controls the gate. Now we get an envelope sound. But you don't really want to have to push this button in order to gate the signal. The gate being what like triggers this envelope. You want to be able to trigger it by either like MIDI or in this case it's pretty easy just to use like your in VCVREC it's really easy to use your keyboard to like play notes. So I'll take the gate on this MIDI to CV device. I'll take this gate output, and then I'll plug it into the gate input of the ADSR. And so now when I press a key on my keyboard, it generates a note according to this ADSR. So yeah, that's like the basic, like that's pretty much step one of making like a sound with modular. Step two is you probably want it to have pitch. So what you'll do is you'll take this, basically in the modular world, something really important to note is obviously that the terminology is kind of weird. Like obviously CV is very exclusive to this world. And another thing that's very exclusive to this world is 5 volts per octave, or not 5 volts per octave, sorry, volts per octave. 1 volt. It's actually 1 volt per octave. What 1 volt per octave means is it would take longer to explain why it's called that than to just say if you plug the 1 volt per octave output into the 1 volt per octave input of the VCO, it creates pitch tracking. So just 1 volt per octave means pitch tracking. Just think of it like that. And now that this is plugged into the volts per octave, 1 volt per octave of the VCO, now depending on what note you play on your keyboard, it will make a different note. So yeah, it's like yeah, and that is like a very basic playable patch. But we don't want just a very basic playable patch. Let's just say we wanted to put a filter on it because it's just a raw sawtooth. It's very buzzy. So what we'll do is we'll take the output of this sawtooth, and instead of putting it directly to the input of the VCA mixer, we'll put it to the audio input of this VCF, which is, again, a voltage-controlled filter. And then we'll set the cutoff with this knob, resonance, and drive. It's kind of all here. It's the normal filter controls. And then you'll send the output of this. You can either have a low-pass filter or a high-pass filter. And then we'll put that back into the input of this VCA mixer. And so now, whenever I play a sound, it gets filtered. Yeah. Also, one other thing about this VCA mixer is you can mix 4 channels of audio, so you can either you can mix 4 channels of audio and send each channel out individually. So like either this mix output to the output will work, or this channel 1 output. But if you want to like sum like multiple channels together, you want to put them in these 4 channels and then send them out with a mix. And these levels, when there's no CV input and it's just droning, these control the level of the sound. But when there's a CV into the envelope here, that's controlling the level. This slider is controlling the level of the CV. So here it's really quiet, here it's really loud. Yeah. Wait, are we supposed to not see your cursor? Oh, Max doesn't show mouse if you share a program instead of speed. Yeah, by the way, if you have questions, send them in the Sleepy Zone channel, because that's where I'm checking. Unless voice overflow is better. Whichever is fine. I don't know which I should do. But, anyway, my fault. So, yeah, I'm going to keep going with this. And I'm just going to keep building on top of the sound and trying to make it, like, more dynamic by using these sort of basic functions that we've already kind of established. So something else we might want to do is a filter envelope. And the way to do a filter envelope, I'll just use the same ADSR as we're using for the synth envelope for the audio, and I'll control click on this envelope and put it to the cutoff input of this filter. And these knobs, just like a general sort of piece of advice for looking at like a module in VCV Rack, these knobs that have like the line in the middle and then kind of go both ways, these are like a bipolar signal. So if you have it on like the right side, the further up you go, the more it'll modulate that signal. So at 12 o'clock, the envelope is doing nothing, but the more you increase this knob towards the right, the more it affects the envelope when you have something into this knob. And it's designated with a line towards the knob, or it's a line towards the input. So it's, if you see a knob like this that's like very clearly connected to an input, just know that that is modulating, or that is attenuating the level of CV that goes to the parameter. And if you put it to the left side, it becomes negative. So like this. Essentially, this envelope shape is being inverted and affecting the cutoff in a negative direction. But yeah, I'm gonna put it like here, and then keep building on it. What should I do next? Something else that's pretty cool is that you can do with modular, just to kind of keep going with ideas of like connecting stuff, is you can take this LFO and send it to the FM input, and lower the frequency, and then hold on. You can adjust it, but this creates vibrato, this FM input. Actually, I kind of feel like I need to do a better job explaining signal flow, so I'm gonna do that really quickly. Sorry, I very much kind of lose my train of thought when I'm talking in front of a lot of people, so my bad for that. But yeah, basically, so pretty much all of the devices in VCV Rack can be categorized into either like a generator or a modulator, or sorry, yeah, generator or processor. And you can generate either audio or CV. So your generators, I'm just writing in the notes thing up here. Your generators are like VCOs, generate audio, and then ADSRs and LFOs generate control voltage. And then you use these generators, use the audio generators to... Why am I explaining this so poorly? Basically, actually, sorry, I don't know why I'm explaining it like this. Yeah, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. I'm gonna explain this a slightly different way. Basically, you want to kind of think about actually, I'm just gonna skip this point because I just feel like I'm kind of spinning my wheels trying to explain this concept, and I might come back to it. I'm just kind of getting a bit mentally overwhelmed. So yeah, keep going. So at this point, we have this weird vibrato patch, I guess. Okay, wait. Sorry, I'm getting slightly overwhelmed mentally.
You're fine to take a second break.
Yeah. Sorry, I just need to catch my breath a little bit.
Yeah. No problem.
Okay, so actually, I'm gonna try to explain this concept slightly. So, like, basically, you have like your audio generators, and then you have things that process audio, which are like filters and amplifiers, VCAs, and like effects. And basically, you send the audio through those, and then you send CV from CV generators to modulate parameters on the generator devices and on the processor devices. So basically, that's pretty much everything you're doing with modular. You're sending audio through processors, and you're using these like control voltage generators, like ADSRs, like LFOs, like random noise, even in order to modulate all of those devices. And so basically, everything that you can do with modular is like building off of that. So right now we have this weird like random LFO vibrato patch. And I'm just gonna sort of go through like how I would like expand on it. And so yeah. Actually no, first I'm gonna show how to sequence stuff because sequencing is really important in modular. So I'm gonna right click in the empty space and put in a sequencer 3. And the way that this thing works is basically you give it a tempo or you give it a clock input. I don't really have anything that's doing clock, so I'll just do the tempo. And you can right click to manually put in a tempo. I'll do 160 just for fun. And then basically as the sequencer goes through these steps, it outputs 3 control voltages based on the position of these 3 knobs. And then you can output these steps or these like sequences separately with CV1, CV2, and CV3. And so for example, the way that you would use that in practice is having CV1 to be the pitch of an oscillator, CV2 to be the cutoff of a filter, and CV3 to be the resonance of the filter. And so that's actually what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a patch that does that. So I'm going to depatch this voltage per octave, 1 volt per octave from the MIDI to CV device and take out the gate because we're not going to be using our keyboard for the triggering and pitch. We're going to be using the sequencer, and I'm going to bring in a quantizer device. And the reason for this is these voltages are continuous, so they're not quantized to a pitch by default. So you need to run them through. So you need to run the voltage through this device to get it to quantize to a note scale. And the way you do that is you click on. So if we wanted C major, for instance, we click on all the black keys, and they will all become unlit. And so you send the CV output through to the 1 volt per octave input here. And then you send the output of that to the 1 volt per octave input of your VCO. And then to get it to gate, it's going to be kind of scuffed because to get it to gate, you need to first, this is really annoying that you need to do this, and it's like a really esoteric thing. But you need to right click on here and click clock pass through in the menu for sec 3. And the reason why you need to do that is because otherwise it'll only like gate for like a small like fraction of a second, so you won't be able to get like a good like note shape. But anyway, we're gonna take this trig output and put it into the input of the ADSR gate. Yeah, no, this and it sounds pretty bad. I'm gonna take out this FM and just adjust the notes until I have something I like. I kind of want the tempo to go up too. And also something else I'm going to do is I'm going to take out the fourth, take out F and take out B, so now we're in C major pentatonic, which is just like a much easier scale to work with in general. And now we have like a little 8-note melodic thing. So then I'm going to do what I said I was going to do and set some random values for this CV2, and then run this CV2 into the cutoff of the filter. Depatch this. And so now we have like a different cutoff amount for each note. And then CV3 I'll just put into resonance. And yeah, now we have like a little, like, pretty nicely modulating little thing. So I got like 20 minutes left. I'm just gonna do some fun stuff now, kind of show like some other acid potential. This shit has crazy acid potential. So I'm just gonna like build off this patch and like show how like I would think about expanding a patch. So something that I kind of miss about the patch before is that it still had the envelope. That it still had the envelope affecting the cutoff, but I still want it to start from like a level that's set by the CV2. So what I'm gonna do is right click and put in where is it? A CV mix. I'm gonna search up here, CV mix. And what this device does is it mixes CV inputs together. So I'll set the CV2 here, and I'll set its level to be pretty much all the way positive. And then I'll also take this envelope, control click here, take it in here. And so now these two inputs are going to be mixed together, and we'll put that to the cutoff. So now it's starting at a level that's defined by here, but it still has the envelope from this ADSR. And I'm also going to, because we said acid, I'm going to tune this down like an octave, so I'll do like C2, or maybe even C1, why not? It's a little low, so I'll do C2 instead. I think the MIDI is like low-key tuned up an octave, because I think this is actually C1, but like compared to normal MIDI, but it is what it is. And actually I'm gonna make this FM. I'll show how to do FM right now. So basically, the way you do FM in this is you take the output of this quantized thing, and first you put it into, or you take another cable from here, and so you're essentially duplicating the note that's going in here, and you put it into this octave device, the input here, and here in the middle is 0 octaves. As you slide up this, it goes to +4 or -4. So this way you can get FM that is, basically it transposes the note up an octave or down an octave. So in this way you can get like really accurate FM like right away. And I'm going to take the output of this and so I'm going to do 1 octave up. And I'm going to take the output of this and put it to the volts per octave of this VCO. And then I'm going to send a sine wave out of here and put it into the FM input of the first VCO. Oh, but it's not tuned to the same thing. So you gotta make sure that they have the same starting tune to begin with. So I'm just gonna make something that I like. But I kind of wanted the FM to have an envelope. So what I'm going to do is take this VCA from up here, put it down here. And then, actually, I'm going to use this second envelope as the CV. This is the CV. It's not labeled for these kind of VCAs, but put that here, and then put this sign output into here, and then patch out of this VCA into the FM of the VCO. And then adjust this ADSR. Then I also have to have the gate set to this ADSR as well. So yeah, now it has like this kind of like little like tonality to it, you know? But let's get even more like silly with it. Let's get even more silly. I'm gonna take this LFO. I'm gonna take this LFO, a sawtooth from this LFO, and put it into the tempo input of this sequencer. And it's gonna get kind of crazy pretty fast. Set it to a low amount. So basically what's going on now is the tempo is starting super low and then it's ramping up in accordance with a sawtooth wave. And you can see kind of the amount of voltage that's coming out if you hover over the output. So yeah, we're getting slightly silly with it. I'm going to transpose this up an octave for fun. And then something else I'm going to do is... I thought that was loud. Something else I'm going to do is I'm going to take this... what am I going to do, actually? I actually don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know why I'm like blanking on what to do, but I'll figure it out. You know, there's not really like any rhyme or reason to like what you have to do. It's kind of just whatever is fun, honestly. I'm going to take a random device in here and I'm going to put and basically I'm going to take this trigger output from here and put it into the trig of this random device. And so it's gonna sample a new random value every time this value is triggered. And these four are just different forms of random voltage. So I'm going to take one of those and I'm going to put it into the attack of this ADSR. And so now it's going to have a different... Actually, I'm going to put it into the decay. My fault. Now it's going to have a different decay every time. Just keep it random, keep it fresh. How do I keep patches organized? For me, I don't, honestly. There's not really... Actually, there are like good ways to do it. Basically, the best way to keep your patch organized is to keep your modules together in terms of the function. Like, I'm gonna turn down the level so I can talk. Like, for example, the best way to keep your patches organized is like, so basically this VCO, this VCA, and this octave device are all controlling the FM of this module. So I could like shift click on these, and then I could drag them all like here, so it's known that they are specifically affecting the FM of this VCO, you know? And then this VCO is going through, you know, like this filter, and it's also going through this ADSR and this VCA mix. So like, basically the way you organize your patches is by just like grouping the devices in a way that makes like sense for what you're doing. That's kind of the best way to do it. But honestly, it does kind of become a blob. Like, and that's true for most people who aren't just like very well organized. It kind of just comes with the territory. But I'm sure, like, the more you do it, the more you kind of get a feel for like how to like keep it organized. It's just I'm just kind of used to the chaos, so I'm a very bad teacher in the sense of like organization, I guess. But yeah, I'm also gonna put the octave up on this FM. I also don't really like how I just organized this. I was kind of just doing it to prove a point, but it actually doesn't really work that well. Is what it is. So I'm just gonna put everything back for my own sanity. Yeah. Yeah, so this is where everything was. Then I guess like some more stuff I could do is like, oh, where did my FM go? Oh shoot, I messed up the order of my stuff. So yeah, I actually like just messed myself up organizationally. Point being, it happens. Just kind of stay, or not stay motivated, but like, you know, it's just something to keep track of. It's not really something that there are any like steadfast rules for like doing correctly. It's just something that if you have something that works for you, then that's good. Yeah, I don't really like how VCV handles like moving stuff because there's no real indicator that you're moving something until it's moved, which gets a bit confusing, but it is what it is for now. I'm gonna mess with this sequence a little bit so we can make some bleep loops. And I'm gonna add a delay, because delays are cool. I only got like 5 more minutes. I kind of wasted a lot of the time in this lecture by not being able to speak well, so my bad. But I'm also gonna put this cutoff, the bass cutoff down. And I'm gonna turn the resonant and CV down. But yeah, so I'm gonna take this actually is like a really important tip for organization, by the way. Processing in parallel. So see how this mix is going to the output here? Basically you can take channel 1 of this, which is the channel that's coming from the VCA mix. Like this is just the direct output of this one channel as opposed to the sum of every channel. You can put this through the delay into the input of this delay and send just the wet out to the input too. And I'm gonna turn the tempo down and take the modulation off so we can just hear. Oh god, sorry. Take the tempo modulation off. And then if I turn this down, you know, you can hear the delay when it comes in. Actually, if I turn this down, it makes it so that there's no delay, so my fault. But and now you have the delay on a separate channel, so you can affect it differently just from the VCA. So you don't have to go and affect the mix of the delay. You can just do it from this mixer. Parallel processing is a very, very good way to be more organized. And then we can modulate the hell out of the delay, which makes it really fun. So I'm gonna throw an LFO in here. I'm gonna take this CV out that's usually doing the pitch, and I'm gonna put it into actually no, I'm gonna take the, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna take the clock output of the sequencer and put it into the clock input of the LFO, so now it's clocking with this. Then I'm gonna take a sine wave and put it to the delay time. And as you can see, it already gets a lot more fun. The more you do this knob, the more it impacts it. And this is just that delay modulation sound, you know? And also we can take another one of these random voltages and put it into the feedback amounts. And then we can take an exponential one, random voltage and put it into the tone. And these are just like, you know, this is sort of the workflow for making something that's really fun, you know? It's not really a science, it's more of an art. It's more just kind of how you can be creative with it. And I feel like this isn't the most like creative patch that this isn't the most, actually, I mean, it's cool. But this is just like one kind of thing. there's so many different things you can do. It just depends on like how you patch things. I would just like, sorry, the sound is distracting me from speaking. I really think like if you're interested in this, just like go in and try things and expect to be confused and just kind of have fun just trying to learn what things do. Like that's the reason why I tried to like explain the kind of philosophy of like what's like a generator, what's a processor, because if you have those kind of basic ideas of like, okay, I'll take an envelope and I'll put that to a VCA, and what's going into that VCA will be a control voltage, and then through that VCA we'll put an envelope on a control voltage that affects the FM of this operator. All those concepts can be applied to pretty much everything pretty much every module. You're basically taking the same steps regardless of what you're doing. So basically just by repeating patterns on different sort of like different modules within this thing, you can, get stuff that's really creative really fast. Like this went from, like a basic like sine wave pluck sequence to weird like delay whatever in literally like 2 minutes just by patching an LFO to the tempo input. And because modular, it really just gives you like a ton of freedom. It gives you freedom to modulate pretty much anything you want with anything you want. So yeah, that's kind of a basic overview. I hope that wasn't too confusing and was like somewhat helpful. I get very nervous when I speak publicly, so I might have skipped over some things. Please like DM me if you have any questions about this stuff or need any help or like want to know more. I really love modular. I would love to jam with any of y'all on modular stuff. I did this lecture so that there would be more people who were interested. The last thing that I really want to say is if you right click and go to the browser and you click browse VCV library, there are a shit ton of really cool modules that'll do like really different things that are like made by like people in the community. And there are a lot of ones that emulate like actual hardware modules. So if you're interested, the reason why I said the library. If you want to record anything out of VCV Rack, and this is so annoying, so I'm sorry that you have to do this. If you want to record anything out of VCV Rack, you need to go to the library and search for here. I'm gonna change my screen sharing to Chrome so that I can show how to do this. Here. So if you click browse library, it sends you. Wait, where am I? It sends you here to the VCV library, and then you need to log in to like download stuff, which is kind of annoying. But if you search and then search recorder, you need to add, and you click add here. You need to add this device. And then once you restart VCV Rack, it'll show up in your browser. But you need to add this device in order to record sounds out as a WAV file. You could use it in your browser as a VST, but it costs money, or you could just get it. I'm not really sure how it works getting it just torrenting it, because like to add stuff you kind of need to have an account, so I'm not sure like how that impacts like the ability to find like a torrent of the version that's not free that you can use as a VST, but because I mostly just use it standalone. But you need to add this recorder, and then you can save your patch as a WAV file and throw it into whatever DAW. And that's pretty much mostly what I use VCV Rack for anyway. It's either for like just for fun, because I just really enjoy hearing like bleep bloop type of sounds, or I record and resample in my DAW. So yeah. Oh, there's Cardinal, which is a fork of VC Virac. Okay, I did not know that. That's awesome. I will check that out. How does the visual recording work? It doesn't record visuals. It records a wave file. It records a wave file. But yeah, thank you all for listening to me scream into the void. I really hope that like it wasn't too confusing. I was kind of getting stressed out like midway through because I thought I was being really confusing and I thought I like wasn't explaining shit well enough and I had to take a moment. But yeah.
That was really fucking awesome. Thank you so much, Dev. That was really
Thank you,
fucking
that
That was
was
really
awesome.
cool. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for
That was
listening.
very interesting.
I never
awesome.
fucked with this shit before, so it's so cool.
Did
I will
it
be
make sense? Like
rewatching
everything
Yeah.
that I was doing?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I will be rewatching the VOD because as well as you explained it, it's like explaining chemistry to a newborn to me, bro.
No, yeah. And that's why it's good that it's recorded. I just
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
Oh yeah.